Welcome everyone to Stand Up Comedy Q&A with Greg Dean. Yay! All right. What we require is some questions from you about your career or the business or the industry, whatever you need answered. Please put it in chat. I am going to cut and paste. I'm making a document, and Greg Dean is here to actually answer these questions for us. We're going to try to do this in an hour. Please stay to the end, and at the end you will get the link to pick up a free book of 10 steps to a working comedian. We have that for you and as a gratitude and appreciation for you. Okay, now let's go. So we have Omar has a question. This is a really great question. He writes, "Hello, Greg. I want to be more
Hello, that one's done.
Yeah.
I want to be more calm during performing and how to memorize my jokes and through images and everything, as you say. So, Mr. Dean, would you like me to spotlight you when you're answering questions?
Please.
Okay.
So that's a really great question. You want to be calmer, first of all, vast amounts of drugs. Always helps. You can get yourself, it's like, I've got some connections. It'll be fine. We'll get you there and stuff like
You
that.
run our country.
Let me just quickly say about the calm part. What they actually, this is from research, which is that a lot of nervousness goes away from one, getting to know the situation, so it's not completely unknown. So go and sit in open mics and shows and stuff like that, and don't perform. That'll help. The other thing is feeling prepared. The more you really are confident and feeling prepared, a great deal of the stage fright and stuff goes away. So about remembering what I call in picture, sounds, and feelings and sensory terms. That's really important because a lot of people don't understand when you repeat the words over and over and over and over and over again as a way of rehearsing, it physiologically gets coded into the part of the brain called the Broca area of the brain. It actually gets, and that's responsible for speech, my speech now, and my internal dialogue speech. But when you rehearse it and you want to recall it, it goes to the Broca area. The only way to get that information out of the Broca area of the brain is we all use eye movements to get, eyes go up for pictures, eyes go to the side for sounds, and you got to go down and to the left, eyes down to the left, to talk to yourself. And that's where the Broca area of the brain is speech. So now you have to wait and get that, you talk the words to yourself. Now you can't get the information any faster than you can talk to yourself. So you're doing your show, eyes go down, you talk to yourself, takes that long to get it for as long as you have to talk, and then you've got to say it to them, then you got to get back into there so you can remember what you're supposed to say next. Now we're watching somebody do a show who's interested in remembering correctly, or their whole agenda is about, I got to know what I'm going to say next. I don't think it's interesting or funny to watch somebody remember correctly.
And on that,
I don't spend all that money going to a club to sit around and make sure that the comedian remembers correctly. I want to have fun with that comedian. That's what I really want now.
Wonderful. Give him a round of, well, you don't have to do that. Let's go to the next question. Okay, we have Jessie. Jessie's a newbie here. Jessie, you still here?
Yes.
Oh, good. Jessie says she's a divorce attorney and she loves this Zoom form to do comedy.
Gayla, are you doing a hint? Are you hinting something?
No. I'm not.
Okay.
You don't
just want to make sure you weren't breaking up with me.
I was like,
you don't want to make that suggestion.
She wanted witnesses.
Okay, so Jessie is asking. She goes, she has purchased your book. She hasn't read it. But she wants to know if you can give an intro clue on how to make being a divorce attorney funny.
How could I make divorce funny?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that it's perfect because all jokes come from negativity. Jokes, the point of humor is to bring some light to that darkness. because there's no point. It's hard to make. You can't make. It's really hard to make happy stuff happy, right? Because happy stuff's already fucking happy. So you're starting with the negativity, and that's the first thing. So got to remember, it might not be funny to you. Your divorce may not be funny to you, but it's hilarious to us. Your pain just makes us laugh really hard. Okay. Now, the next step to that is, and that's probably one of the greatest skills you can work on once you understand joke structure. At the center of all jokes is one thing with two interpretations, a connector. That's universal, and that's got to be in a joke. So it's learning how to take those ideas and how do you express them in joke structure. And when it becomes in joke structure, that's where we start to build the funny. I don't have the time to teach joke structure right now. It's in the book, which you said you might read. Read the first 2 chapters and you'll start to understand what I'm talking about. The idea is that it's the negative stuff that we need to make funny. And so I think you're in a large vat of comedy.
Yeah, good job. Good question. Good answer. Thank you, Greg. We have another question coming up here. Here we go. We have a question from comedian Webb. Good question. Are comedy festivals the way to large stages? Great question.
Are the way to what? Large?
To get on big stages.
Oh, large stages. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Well, a lot of them are done at pretty big stages. So, yeah. So, no, the answer is yes. In a way, let me talk about this company because I think comedy festivals are really important. First of all, it's a great place to go and network and get to know all the comedians of your particular age, and maybe if they have some guests and stuff of an age older than you. Really important to get to know everybody in the comedy world that you can get to know, right? The other thing is it also gives you an opportunity to perform, okay? And a lot of times, if you go up levels, you keep going into different levels of it, maybe you'll have to perform 4, 5, 6 times in a row. So now you're getting a lot of experience. And that's really, really, really helpful. And a lot of the people, I mean, I've judged several, for like in Las Vegas, the World Series of Comedy, and I know Joe, and for the San Francisco Comedy, the comedy contest there, et cetera. I've judged at those, and people come to me later and say, hey, do you have any feedback for me? And I will give that to them. When people ask me for it, I don't give out, information. It's just, I have to wait until people actually want my feedback. You can get some real feedback from pros because I got to tell you, listening to club owners and stuff like that's really good. So that you get that feedback from the people that are out there who are oftentimes responsible for giving you work. So now they know you. Okay, you've met them, and now you have a relationship, and you can remind them of who you are when you make a contact, and now that's a solid contact.
Awesome. Good question. David J has a really interesting question. Should I keep working on the same set until mastered?
Yes and no. Yes, a lot of people avoid working on the same show over and over and over again because we teach classes, and so people go, I don't want to go to that same show with the same group in front of me. Oh, that's a big mistake, because let me make a distinction here. The distinction is between the script, like the show itself, and then the interpretation of that show. Okay. Now you should keep working on the same, essentially the same material over and over again, because you're going to be adding tags to it and adding things and understanding the delivery and all that kind of stuff. What happens is people get tired of it because they don't reinterpret that show. In other words, I like people to, I train people to have their show in picture, sounds, and feelings. In other words, they take their, I'll take all their material and turn it into a scene. Now, when they look at that scene, they tell the story of the jokes, or the story with the jokes in it. I believe that the most important thing about stand-up comedy is your relationship with the audience, which is to say your attention is 100% on the audience, and their reaction, which is a laugh or even a lack of a laugh, should come in and have an impact on how you go about doing, saying, and going to the next joke, the next bit, or whatever. The idea is the audience is involved and has an influence on you throughout the show. Now, if you do that and you really let the audience in, every show will have a different interpretation. Even when you do it in front of the same group of people, they'll laugh at the same jokes if you surprise them by telling the joke with different emotions and different characters than you used before, and different emphases, etc. So now they're shocked and they're surprised by the different interpretation. So now really you have two jokes going on in every show. One that you've written, and now how you're responding to the circumstances of the joke or story. How you're responding to it is also part of jokes.
That's amazing. Great answer. We have a question from Armando, actually. Armando asks, hello, Greg. Hello, everyone. How do you find your comedic voice and develop a stage persona that feels authentic?
First of all, don't memorize your words by saying them out loud over and over and over again, because as soon as you put them in internal dialogue, you have to go to self-talk to get them back out. That just puts the end to you being yourself, because you've been telling stories from picture, sounds, and feelings your whole life. 1. 2 is you already have your comic voice. If everybody doesn't know this, it's already in your head. You know that voice that runs in the back of your head all day long that says all that horrible, nasty, violent, terrible, judgmental, racist, horrible stuff that runs into your head all day long? That's the real you. That's who you really are. You've developed a social facade so that people will talk to you. If you didn't, if everybody knew, if you actually did everything that you thought of, you wouldn't have any friends or relatives. You wouldn't have any friends in anywhere ever, right? But we have a frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is about decisions. So we think about those things and we don't do them. Okay? But stand-up comedy gives you the opportunity to let that voice out through the canvas of jokes. Through humor, we get to let those things out. Okay? I mean, that, and part of it is getting to know those things, because your internal monologue of that all that stuff that's there says all that stuff are nothing but premises. Premise is very simple. It's a subject with a negative opinion. Tell me you don't have about 30 or 40 of them a day. I know I do. You just have to have the courage to, like Louis C.K. and Bill Burr and Nikki Glazer, to let that come out of your mouth. And I know you think, oh, everybody will hate me. And some people will. But what you'll mostly find after you do that are peers. All the people out there who agree with you.
Greg, here's a question from Comedian Web here. Do you get to the funny faster in urban rooms versus mainstream rooms?
Well, me personally, being an urban comedian, so I know more about that through gala than anything else, because I've played everything. I mean, I used to be a street performer, an improviser. I'm still a paid regular at the Comedy Store. I'm on the wall. I play a lot of different kinds of audience, a lot of different clubs, a lot of different places. I don't know. Here's my answer for things like that, which is the most important thing. This is what I teach. The most important thing about stand-up comedy, the performing of stand-up comedy, is your relationship with the audience. Now, again, my definition of relationship is that your attention is on them and their responses are having an impact on you during the show itself. That's why I don't want any show to be the same show. I don't want the vocal tones to be the same. I don't want the body language to be choreographed. I don't want the characters to be exactly. Bits should go as long as they're working, etc. It's hard to explain, but you stay in the bit for as long as they're laughing, and you don't decide that in advance. That is created in this feedback loop with the audience. So I'm not sure that there is, if you're doing what I'm just suggesting, that there's any difference between urban rooms and not urban rooms.
Right.
There may very well be, yet with that, your awareness of them and how you build a rhythm with each individual audience. Right. It doesn't matter who's out there. It's your relationship with the group that's in front of you as you develop that show with them. The show is developed, to me, performed with an audience. It's not you alone. They're involved in every part of it, even at the lowest, the easiest, simple level of how long do you take a break, how long do you pause while they're laughing before you come back in. They're having an effect on how you do the show.
Good. Actually, since you referenced me, I'm scared of urban rooms, and I got to work on that. You know that, because see, I found, and Greg, you also teach. You're over here. You also teach that the that urban rooms, at least for Black comedians, the audience is a lot more demanding of you. You got to keep it real. They know when you're not doing that. So it makes you fun. It makes you more authentic in the sense that they're not going to give you anything, or they'll just heckle you. And Greg, you used to say in your classes that the audience that is your culture will be the most demanding audience of you, or could push you to be more authentic in your own voice. But when you
absolutely.
Go to yeah, so you can speak on that if you want.
Well, you did the show in San Diego that time, and it was a very urban. It was a famous jazz singer was retiring, and they brought comedians and other people in to talk and gala. And it was much more of an urban room than she was used to doing. And she'd been talking to me about some material and stuff. And her normal material's not that quite with that. She got up and improvised like a 7-minute bit.
Oh, that's not what I was taking.
It was in the rhythm and the timing of an urban room, and she just crushed it. And I'd never seen her do that material before, and she hasn't really done it since. So that's my point, is that's her flexibility that she's learned, is that you're not stand-up comedy is not a presentation. Right. Okay. It's a dialogue with an audience, and every show should be unique for that audience that's in front of you, because you're connected to them in that relationship, and they know they're having an influence on you, and cool. They're very flattered by that.
A question from Andre. Cabezas, how much should I hold back, if any, when I'm doing dark and edgy humor?
None.
Ooh, none.
Probably should be going further. I was friends with Sam Kinison. I even wrote a joke he used to do for years. The reason I'm angry is because I got no fucking neck. So he did that for years. I just, talking to him outside a club and stuff. And Anthony Jeselnik is my student as well. And when he first came in, he says, I'm kind of dark. And I went, well, if it's honest, then yeah, do it. If that's where your real sense of humor is, then you do it. Trust yourself. If your stuff is dark and whatever it is, you do it because you want to do it. You don't listen to a comedy teacher. Especially don't listen to the comedians, because they spend so many years to make themselves funny that becomes, after a while, all they know. So they all give you advice of, this is how I would do it, therefore you should do it that way too. And there's a lot of teachers that teach that way too, and I'm saying, no, it's about your voice. It's about what you think is funny. Okay. We can't possibly know what some future audience in an unknown demographic, in an unknown venue, is going to laugh at. So that's why it's about the relationship. Now, talking with Anthony, and I knew this was Sam too, for years people said, stop yelling at the audience. And he just didn't listen. finally he found his crowd. Same thing with Anthony. I chat with him about it and stuff. And I ran into him recently at the Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store, her memorial, and chatted with him for a while about, and he talks about, well, when I used to do it, you know, and if I was hesitant at all, I really would bomb. But what if you really get in and gotta do it? I'm gonna just completely commit to this. After a while, people go, oh, that's his gig. That's what he does. Oh, now they can decide to get it, accept it, not accept it, like it or not like it. That's not your responsibility. As strange as that sounds, that's not up to you. What's up to you is what you do on stage and how honest and authentic you are. And eventually you will find your audience.
We got an interesting double question from Jody. We only got time for like 3-4 more questions here. Jody has 2 questions for you. So Greg, you can pick which one you want to answer. Jody says, question 1. How much of a comedy act is typically planned versus improvised? Okay, that's one question. Here's the second question. In your opinion, is comedy a skill that can be taught and learned, or is it something you're inherently wired for? And bigger picture, do you think humor is less about being funny and more about how people experience and process the world? Oh my God.
Okay, I'm not an encyclopedia. So that was 3 really great questions. Let me answer this one, the one in the middle, about whether comedy can be taught, since I am a comedy teacher. The answer is absolutely, it can. Babies do not pop out of the womb doing one-liners. You know? Who put this cord down here? I see 2 of them. You know, I mean, that's not, you know, what goes on. Funny people like myself, okay, and I grew up in a family of alcoholics. They were hilarious. Now, to teach people, you first have to know so much. There's so much. So let me kind of break down the areas that I have innovated, I think, over time. First of all, joke structure. Okay, that took me 17 years to figure out joke structure, and I'm still undoing the layers of it. And I presented it to the World Humor Conference, and they said it's like 5,000 PhDs all over the world, and me. And they looked at my stuff and went, wow, you're right. This is the same thing we're doing. You have a totally different model, totally different language, but saying the same thing. So it kind of got ratification there that I do know what joke structure is, and there is structure to them, variations to it as well. That's the first thing. The other thing is there's a lot of techniques in a lot of different areas of stand-up comedy, and that's been my expertise. So let me just tell you how I go about doing this quickly. My job is to figure out a technique. Okay. Oh, that's what that technique. Now, sometimes it has a name, and I keep that name. Sometimes it doesn't have a name, so I have to give it a name. Then I take that technique, I turn it into an exercise in my classrooms. And if people do that exercise over and over and over in my class and then beyond my class, they develop that technique as a skill. Okay, it's like riding a unicycle. I can tell you what riding a unicycle is, and that does you no good. You've got to get up on it and fall down, get up and fall down, get up and fall down, get up and fall down, hurt yourself, get up, quit, come back, do it again, get up, fall down. And after, when I'm teaching somebody something, I'm watching them get up and fall down. I'm there to keep going. You can do it. Get back up. You can do it. Get back up. You can do it. Get back up. That's where I help. But now they're practicing techniques. So you go through all that angst to get up in front of an audience. Are you practicing good technique, or are you just getting really good at bad technique? Because I go to the open mics from time to time, especially when I have a bunch of my students there. I'll just drop by one, and I'll see the same people I saw 5, 7, 8 years ago with the same problems and the same bad technique, because they don't know what good technique is. And so let me give me one more moment with the whole thing, which is, let me give you a quick example of that. So now I've been teaching crowd work to people.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of techniques behind it. The ways you ask questions. You have to ask one question at a time, etc. You need to repeat the answers. It's all these technical things. But let me go to the technique I'm talking about here. For them to find a joke is what I call misunderstanding. You purposefully misunderstand what the audience person said, and then spit it back out to them in another way that's very embarrassing for them. I saw Russell Peters recently, and he was looking for a doctor, and one guy, the doctor said, he said, I'm a general practitioner. And Russell Peters says, you're a genital practitioner? And let the audience laugh, and then the guy's yelling at him, and he's going, oh, general, oh, okay. Whew, I'm good, I know he heard general practitioner. The technique of purposefully misunderstand led him right to the joke that he saw, put it out there, and it worked. And I've done that when I do crowd work. I do it all the time. When I teach crowd work, it's one of the techniques I teach people as well, is to purposefully misunderstand, because that leads you right to a joke.
All right, good. That's a great answer. Oh, cool, Greg. That took a minute because there's a lot of moving parts for sure. We got a couple more questions here. Over here, this is an interesting one. You talk about this in your class. This gentleman, Michael asked, how should I approach open mics strategically? Because you also say open mics when you're performing, should you do new material? Should you work out? Should you, how do you approach an open mic? Let me just spotlight you there. Good question.
So open mics, it's a tough situation there. I know it's very, I personally believe that it should, first of all, if you're scared and you're afraid of them, I used to do this. I was so terrified of going to the only one in town that was, when I first came here to LA, was at the Comedy Store, and just terrified. So I finally went, okay, I'm just going to go and not perform. That's the first thing. Just get yourself there. Because remember I said earlier that a lot of stage fright goes away from familiarity instead of it just being a complete unknown. So I would go and I'd sit there and I'd watch them and I'd realize I'm funnier than almost all these people. So I'd go and sign up and get up and do something, and I was right. I wasn't as funny as some of them, but I was funnier. So that's the first thing, which is get yourself there, because it isn't as crazy or as frightening as you think it is. Once you get there a few times, you realize everybody else there is just as terrified as you are. Okay, next is open mics. For me, the way I counsel people, it's a two-step process. Go to the open mic, okay? Be there. Oh, and remember, culture comes from the top down. If you got somebody who's just really crazy and crappy and everything, it's going to be a crappy open mic. If you got somebody who's level-headed, wants everybody to have a good time, wants everybody to listen, it's going to probably be a pretty good open mic. Okay, so first thing is evaluate. If it is a bad open mic, do not do your material, because you're trying to get a read on your material. And you can't get a read on your material when no one is listening. All the comics are back there talking, smoking pot, doing shit, right? All that stuff, writing on their show. They're not paying attention. And every once in a while, one will, from the back of the room, you'll hear, you'll do a good joke and they'll go, ah, just to let you know you're funny. But that's probably all you'll get. So don't do your material there in that situation. It's just discouraging, because you'll think, well, if I was really good, I could make them listen. And the answer to that is, yes, that's right. Gail could make them listen. I could make them listen. A lot of people could make them listen because they got a lot of experience, but you don't. So don't try to make them listen. Now, you want to go to an open mic and come home with something for you. Okay, this is the little gem that I say. I say you pick a premise or some ideas of material you've been thinking about. You get up there on that stage, lights in your eyes, microphone in your hand, etc., and you rant. you just start letting that voice out of the back of your head about whatever you're talking about. Let that start coming out your mouth. Start saying all that stuff that you're usually afraid to say in public, or even try to get it into jokes. Just start saying that and record it, because you might come up with something really brilliant. Okay. But now you're practicing getting up on that stage and being honest. And honest as a beginner, in some ways, is far more important than actually funny. We can build funny into a show. Honesty is something I work really hard to get all my students to be. I'm after their real story. How do they really look at the world that's different than everybody else looks at the world? And that honesty, now you leave that open mic having practiced honesty. You've left there with something that really is helpful for you as a comedian.
Yeah, for sure. And it's your original material, original voice. Nobody can steal it from you. It's very great. We have one more question. Your question was, Greg, I love your thoughts on structuring. Dean, I love your thoughts.
Yeah.
I asked you to say, can you be specific? Structuring jokes, structuring career, or structuring routines?
No, just structuring the jokes. Like, is it a specific way how I can structure jokes and kind of like simulate it in kind of a bigger picture in telling my story?
Could you say that again?
No, Greg.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Greg. So I have like.
Okay,
sorry.
let me do my best to untangle that spaghetti. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you.
First of all, everything is specific. Everything. You can never be. This is not me. This is Konstantin, the famous acting teacher, Stanislavski. Konstantin Stanislavski said in acting, you can never be too specific. Every joke is about being specific, etc. I have what I call comedy grammar, joke grammar, where they even need to be written a certain way for communication and the resolving of the joke. Every joke is a little puzzle. There's the misdirection and then something unexpected, and then you have to resolve that. It's called resolving incongruity in humor theory. Okay, so there's things that help that, ways you phrase jokes, and phrasing jokes sometimes or certain ways can make that faster, because I want the audience to respond, never to think. I want the instant response out of them if I can. So they have to resolve that incongruity, respond to it quickly. So there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that. First of all, so jokes are very specific. Jokes are also in details. They're not in generalities. I can't do jokes about my family. It's little things about your family. Okay, those are the things, those little details about family that you can do jokes about. Okay, so first of all, jokes. Now, I don't have the time to go through your whole career, but yes, that we're giving you an ebook at the end of this that's called 10 Steps to Be a Working Comedian. And in a lot of ways, that's the path for the whole journey of being a comedian. Covers a little bit about material and performing and doing that kind of stuff, not in detail like my classes do. But with the way I think of a story, I say tell your story arc. Okay, I think of a story as like a clothes rack. You tell the story, and if it's a funny story to you, you got a couple of jokes on little jokes on that clothes rack. Do you follow? And you got the story. Okay, now you got to go back and go take each little moment of it, and that fits into the story, and turn that little moment into a joke. And we do that in our classes. Okay. Oh, how do we find? And I'll tell you the secret to finding a joke in it, which is discovering or finding the connector. All jokes have a connector. They have, at the center of all jokes is one thing with two interpretations or meanings. Now, a lot of people misunderstand that and think I'm saying, oh, it's got to be one word with two meanings. That's one way to do it. But connectors come in the form of who, what, when, where, why, how, and which being usually a choice, this one or which one did, am I going to get you to choose in order to create the jokes? So that's what you're looking for, is how do you take that thought, that moment, and find a connector that turns it into a joke. We do it all the time in my life, in my level 2 classrooms, all the time, constantly. We're always, and people get better and better and better and better at that. That's why I know you can teach stand-up comedy, is my students get better at pitching jokes, writing jokes, getting better at performing, get better at crowd work, get better at roasting. They get better at all those because they're following the techniques. So this technique is you keep filling in that story that you've got with jokes. Pretty soon you have so many jokes, you might be going, well, let's just start taking out the weaker ones. Let's do pretty soon, because I have my students, just in my level 2 classes, they're required, one, to have script, just so that we can look at it and they can record it and have it. They don't memorize the words of their scripts, hopefully. But just having that helps them. So you build that story, and that's going to lead you to be able to be specific about everything that you're doing. Everything is about being specific. So learn to be specific, because generalities just kind of kill the laughs.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That's great. That's our last question. Thank you. Give him a round of applause, everybody. That was great. That was Greg Dean's stand-up comedy Q&A. The Q&A session, free Q&A after the open mic session once a month on Fridays. So thanks for coming, and I appreciate you guys.